This project is on human actions and how they cause climate change in Norway. Climate change, which is a product of human actions, has a large impact on the country of Norway in many ways. The definition of climate change is a change in global or regional climate patterns. Because the heating of the world is so important to our life, some feel that the word climate change is not enough, and instead prefer to call it climate breakdown, to reflect the dire consequences that it has on our Earth. Climate change in itself may just change the temperature of the Earth, but it also has so many more impacts around our world, such as flooding, droughts, avalanches, earthquakes, and so much more. These can then lead to even more natural disasters, such as volcanoes, tsunamis, and many more devastating events that are natural disasters but are caused by humans as well. Climate change doesn't only impact the weather, but it also impacts animals and vegetation. Animals have ecosystems, and those systems have a natural balance. When this balance is disrupted, like by a change of water or air temperature, the animals will either have to adapt to the new environment or they will begin to go extinct. This could disrupt even more ecosystems, and it will be very difficult to reform them once again. Not only the animals are affected by climate change, but vegetation as well. Norway is normally cold all year round, and some winter plants are unable to withstand the heat of the summer sun. If winter months are shortened and summer is lengthened, whole species of plants will be affected by the heat and may die off entirely. Plus, since farming is already difficult in Norway, an increase or decrease in soil moisture from floods or droughts can cause problems for the agriculture industry. Lastly, with an increase in air temperatures comes the melting of ice. Norway borders on the Arctic Circle, which means that its glaciers are melting and it's making sea levels rise. Norway is met with the ocean from all but one side, making it susceptible to flooding as the water levels rise. Tourism impacts. So as you can see, climate change has a lot of effects on Norway and the world. But how does it affect tourism? Let's go back to the rising air temperatures. Just under half of all tourists travel to Norway in the winter months in order to ski, snowboard, and enjoy snowy activities on the mountains and fields. With a rise of air temperatures in the winter, that whole section of tourism is affected. Already, climate change has restricted cross-country skiing to only half of the days that it was available before. Couple this with the fact that rainfall has increased by 20% in the last 100 years in Norway, and you will see tourist interest, which was very high before, drop even lower. As I mentioned before, increased rainfall and snow melting can lead to flooding and landslides in the mountain areas. And one thing sure to deter tourism is the danger of natural disasters. Norway caters to eco and adventure tourists because of its amazing natural landscape. So when the fjords, cliffs, mountains, and fields are all barren and less beautiful than they were before, people will not want to travel anymore to experience it. Not all of the impacts on tourism are bad. As glaciers melt, the Arctic Passage actually opens further and allows bigger ships through, like cruises and cargo ships. Tourists will be brought to Norway by these other ships crossing along the passage, which will increase tourism. Unfortunately, along with the melting of the glaciers comes people trying to extract oil and to mine, which may deter tourists once again. Some suggestions that I have to help climate change in Norway is to limit the carbon use. By limiting the amount of carbon that we use, it will bring down air and water temperatures. Unfortunately, this can also mean more expensive goods because the source of energy will cost more. My second suggestion is to plant more trees and vegetation, and also to protect the ecosystems that are already thriving, so that people who want to do them harm cannot affect them anymore. My third suggestion is to restrict development near the Arctic and promote tourism and the environment instead. Many people want to develop and mine in the Arctic, but since it is already such a fragile environment, the best thing we can do is leave it alone and let it try and heal by itself while promoting other things. This